Is some of the spiritual advice that you've been getting lately not working for you? Are you considering your personal growth holistically, or are you putting it in just one bucket of spiritual and another bucket of emotional and another bucket of physical?
Welcome to the Angelscapes podcast, where you're encouraged to uncover and develop a direct connection with your soul's power, wisdom, and spiritual intuition that is ready to blossom. We'll explore new ideas, compelling tips, and real steps to help you learn simple spiritual practices. We're a safe place to learn more about accessing your soul's power with education and spiritual wholeness that could bring more clarity to your life. Now here's your host, a practicing medium, Akashic Records practitioner, spirit artist, coach, and mentor, Dr. Reverend Nancy Smith.
This is Angelscapes, and I'm your host, Nancy Smith, your guide for living a soul-powered life. Join me in this episode for a conversation about creating a holistic spiritual path that honors and supports all of your needs. As you embark on a spiritual journey, you must embrace your full self. So no matter what your spiritual path entails, healing isn't an either or thing. I'm going to choose my mental health. I'm going to choose my spiritual path. I'm going to practice this and I'm going to ignore myself on that. Spiritual healing is, well, I guess I should say a spiritual path embraces healing physically, mentally, emotionally, as well as spiritual healing. The soul isn't separate. Your spirit of your life and as you're living it isn't separate from the creator or the soul. Healing the mind, body, and spirit together is what I'm going to talk about in this episode. We often talk about healing as if it's a straight road, one size fits all process, where you just need to pray harder or meditate longer, or stay positive, or take the right attitude, read the right books, be with the right people, have the right vibration. But that's not what life is. We are spirit having a human experience, and that's so true. We are essentially spiritual beings, but we are in a human life right now, and that human life is in a body that's fragile, that has lots of emotions in it. We're learning from those emotions. It has physical, I guess some parts of us are really strong and some parts of us aren't that strong. Some parts of us get sick a lot, or maybe our mental capacity is letting us down. Maybe we've had a tremendous amount of trauma that's feeding into not only our mental state, but it's feeding into our physical state, which is supporting a sense of a lack of well-being in our mental state. And deciding to have a spiritual practice can really support the healing of this, but it can't, of this trauma or this healing or this disparity that needs to be brought together. The spiritual practice doesn't replace the work that needs to be done in the physical, mental, and emotional feeling state. What do I mean by this? Spirituality can ground us into knowing that there is a place of well-being. Somebody can have a chronic illness over a long period of time and have that chronic illness really debilitate them mentally or emotionally. I saw that happen with my mom, where her physical illness just took her down. She's a very spiritual person, and her illness kind of checked out her spiritual aspect. She let go of the spiritual aspect a little bit, where at times I've seen other people who have been very ill and struggling, and their spirituality brought them up. It grounded them into a sense of well-being, a sense of that's a better place, a better, a higher road, if you will. But we need to do both. We need to take care of ourselves mentally. Back in the 80s is when these antidepressant medications came on. I remember going to a series of lectures where this excitement of this chemical breakthrough, medical breakthrough, where certain medications could get people who were desperately mentally ill, they get them to leave the house, get them to embrace life, get them to do more. And once they had that level of their life improved, they could begin to be more creative. They could maybe think of stepping on a spiritual path. And so those medications, as rough as they were, they've been refined since the 80s, were maybe overused a little bit. And so we started to see articles of the Prozac generation or this, that, or anything. But if you were in the time before there was mental health medication and people had to just tough it out and suffer and would lose their entire lives, meaning that they would stay indoors with agoraphobia or whatever it is, the ups and downs of a bipolar situation or a deep depression or trauma that couldn't be rectified or gotten over, this medication helped people get back into their lives. And once they got back into their lives, their pathway, their life's path opened up for them. So I also see on the spiritual side of some of the new age and some of the spiritual healing saying, we got to get you off of those medications or else you won't be healed. We've got, if you're on those medications, you're not healed or you're not a whole person. There's something wrong with you. Where sometimes the spiritual healing aspect, which are amazing, the energy work, the Reiki work, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about this, assumes that you would achieve a certain level of healing. You would achieve a certain level of wellness where you didn't need that medication anymore without ever looking at what is going on with the physical body. These physical bodies are like, I see them as biological intelligences, a biological suit that we wear, and it can be fragile. And it's all we've got the endocrine system, we've got the organs, we've got the muscular skeletal system. All these systems work together to move us forward in our ambulatory way or whatever. And sometimes certain systems don't work well. And when we're in the environment that we are in, the environment impacts our physicality. And medicine and science don't totally understand all of those impacts. And sometimes the things that we need to move the physical body forward and stabilize it have nothing to do with whether you're on a spiritual path or not. It just is. Now we're going to go into talking about energy healing in a little bit, and so hold on to your horses here for a minute. We need to respect where we are whenever we move forward in our lives. We're moving together. Even our soul speaks to that. We're moving together as a whole. No parts get left behind. Our body has its own intelligence, its own sense of wisdom, and its own sense of self-healing, where our spirit sometimes can be detached from that, or our spirit can be very involved in that, depending on who you are as a person and how you've been trained and how things work. But to move forward on a spiritual path while you're neglecting your physical and your mental well-being is a mistake. It causes a schism, which causes the mental illness to get worse, or it can bring on a mental illness, and a dark side of yourself can come forward if you don't own it, if you're not taking care of it, that the shadow part of yourself, it will take over. It'll have a life of its own. It will, you'll end up doing things you never thought you would do. So it's a schism of one part of yourself is on one side and the other part is on the other. And that is not what a spiritual path is meant to do. Sometimes you can call it spiritual bypass, when you're like going to jump into and hide from life. And this has been going on, oh gosh, for years and years, where, monks would join a monastery and become, not talk or just live in a very sequestered way, or women would become nuns in the same way. And I'm not saying anything against the monks that do this amazing prayer and amazing energy work and elevate themselves to a high level of energy, which is amazing to be part of that. It's amazing to see. But most of us are looking for our soul connection, working towards a spiritual path are on a regular day-to-day path, and we do have to deal with our physical bodies just as they are. We do have to get ourselves to work. We do have to take care of our family members, whether we're parents or not. The community around us, we do need to be participating in that community around us. And so we need to find a balance. We need to find a balance. So spiritual growth isn't separate from your emotional or physical well-being. As a matter of fact, it needs to work as a team. As a matter of fact, from a soul's point of view, our soul often looks for us to see. I guess I see spirit as really part of the human experience, and soul as being the creator, kind of in us, but above us, our higher self. So using that organizational principle, our soul is very interested in seeing how our spirit works with our physical humanness, works with our mentalness, works with our emotion. As a matter of fact, our intuition comes up through our emotions, comes up through our physical body, and we pick up information intuitively as we connect with our soul, as we connect to the higher power. So we need all of it. We need all of our full self in order for us to go forward, in order for us to experience that loving presence that is the creator. And our soul learns from that. Our soul grows from that. Our soul's path is to understand the humanness and the courage and the focus and the learning that comes from being human. So that I want to express that you can't have one without the other. Splitting yourself up to a bunch of little containers. Here's my physical body, here's my emotional body, here's my mental body, my IQ, and then here's my soul and my spiritual practice. That is going to cause more and more schisms, more and more breaking apart of yourself. And the soul pathway that you're looking for, the soul's purpose, can't happen when you're disconnected from all these different parts of yourself. The healing is about bringing you all together. I have people that come to me sometimes and are just having a hard time of it, and they want me to somehow give them a cheat code or a cheat sheet of or a pass to don't worry about that. It'll magically go away and you can go forward and do your thing. Or they want an answer. Do I have to keep suffering with this, or what do I do, or you don't understand me, make it right? And I can't make it right. You have to make it right. I can tell you intuitively what your soul's saying. I can work energetically with you as your soul and the angels connect, but I can't take your pathway away from you, nor can any medium or any healer take your pathway away from you. So let's go into a little bit into energetic healing, where the energy, the Reiki energy or the hands-on healing or whatever, or the trance energy that is putting you into this beautiful sphere of love, sphere of healing, nurturing love, can change your life dramatically, because maybe that wasn't part of your life for a really long time, and it's time for you to remember it. And as your body remembers that love, your psyche remembers that love, your soul and your emotional self remembers that love, things can line up energetically and to create a different result in your life than you had before. Masaru Emoto I hope I'm saying his name right, is the man who studied water and the influence of energy on water. And what he did was started off by freezing water and looking at the crystals that it created. And he got water from high up in a stream from Tibet, and the crystals were beautifully formed and balanced and just breathtaking. And then he got water from a river where a woman's body had murdered and her body was dumped into the water, and the water came up. The crystals were not formed, they were not balanced, but inside the middle of that circle was a shadow of a body, of a human body, which was dark and gray and a little eerie, and he said the water knows, the water has an experience of the energy. So he started to have people put prayers into water, or put anger into water, or he started to have music, certain music played to the water, and then he would freeze it and study the crystals. And each sound, each feeling, each emotion, each vibration made a different crystal. And I really recommend that you look for these books with the photos of the crystals in them. They're fascinating. In that sense, we are 90% water, impact our bodies by what we think, what we say, what we do, what we deny, what we hurt, how we hurt ourselves, how somebody else's trauma can live inside of us. And we must remember, when we walk on our spiritual path, to heal ourselves, or to bring loving vibrations into our physical body, and to accept ourselves just as the way we are, so that the spiritual energy can seep in and bring a different balance about. And that's the miracle, the healing miracle that we're working, that we view, that we look at when we're seeing the healing. We're seeing the body is remembering to be its full self. The body is remembering to be whole. And that's the energy healing. Now, that changes the physical form. Now, I have to say that sometimes that physical form can only go so far, or sometimes the internal energies, the internal thoughts, the internal self-respect isn't there. So it can block, or the beautiful flow that's trying to influence the water of our body, and the healing may not completely take. Or our body's just made that way. It's just the way that it's going. As we get older, what we could do in our 20s, and now we're in our 60s or our 80s, we couldn't do when we were in our 20s. Some people can, but they'll still say it hurts a little bit more than it did when I was younger. So there's a change that happens in our body as we age, that we don't have to give in to, but we do need to respect. And as we respect ourselves, we're able to do more physically, as we respect our body and love our body. So that's why I'm talking about the spiritual journeys being holistic. And spiritual bypass, going back to that thought, may feel comforting in the moment, but it actually delays the deeper healing by pushing pain underground instead of tending to it with compassion and truth. So our work here, the ascension work, is about integration, is about not pushing things down deeper so we can feel them less and less, and they still impact us quite a bit, but to bring those energies up that we're judging or deeming as being dark or lesser than. That doesn't work at all. But embracing it and working with yourself. If you have a club foot, if you have a bad foot, the foot's going to be your foot for the rest of your life. So accepting it, loving, having compassion for yourself, and working with, strengthening your leg, or doing whatever, or knowing that you have to wear certain shoes, and don't force your foot into a shoe that's going to hurt yourself. All of that common sense, which seems like common sense, but sometimes people don't think that's common sense. Respecting yourself and having compassion for yourself is the best pathway towards healing, and accepting yourself as you are. Somebody who's sometimes we have mental hurts from trauma. They're invisible. You can't see them on the body. Body looks great, but inside is hurt very deeply. So from trauma, let's say from trauma, from abuse, from having been, not bonded to as a child, not having those basic human needs met. And so developing a trauma situation where you don't trust anybody, but maybe a mental illness kind of seats itself right into your life, and you can't move forward. That needs to be attended to. If you decide you can't trust anybody in the whole world, and that everybody is lying to you, and then there's nothing that's going to come that's ever going to help you, that's a decision that you need to make. What am I going to do with this? Sometimes some people can be too hurt, too damaged to see that they actually have choices, that they can move forward. And it's important to find when you have the kind of mental illness, when you have that clinical depression, when you have those trauma symptoms, to find people that you can trust that can help you walk through to a different place in your life that can help balance you. And sometimes, remember I said in the 80s, these amazing medications were developed. And it's not about anesthetizing people so they can't do things. The medication was developed so that it could stabilize people so they could have a life. Sometimes the medications are used inappropriately, or they don't understand. The medical industry doesn't understand the implications of some of the chemicals, and that's very sad when that happens. There's also a very powerful modality called homeopathy that has amazing remedies, for mental health, mental, emotional, and mental stability and well-being. And those remedies can be very helpful if you find a talented homeopath who's willing to work with you. That takes a little bit of time, but it is tending to the issue. Maslow's law of hierarchy, what I've talked about a couple different episodes, you need to achieve a certain level of stability in order to enable yourself in order to move up the hierarchy to become more and more self-realized. So if you're at the bottom of the triangle, the bottom of the pyramid, where you're surviving and you're managing just barely, and your emotions and your thoughts are skewed, it's very difficult to bypass that and have a spiritual, a high level of a spiritual thought. Doesn't mean that it won't happen. What I'm saying is they go hand in hand, but one doesn't have to repress the other. The spirituality, the spiritual practice can elevate the physical. There's no doubt about it. That's absolutely true. But if we use the spiritual practice to repress the human condition, we're not going anywhere. It's gonna come back and bite us later. Pay now or pay later, I guess, is what I see happening quite often. The dark night of the soul. The dark night of the soul is when we're living our lives outside of our soul, outside of our spirit. We're living against our spirit, and then our soul has an appointment with us that says, this ain't working, guys. Let's get you back on track. So that's called dark night of the soul, where nothing comes together, nothing feels right. Everything is dark. Depression can set in. But a dark night of the soul doesn't last for decades, right? So if there's something going on that's repeating over and over and over again, maybe you need some help with that dark night of the soul. There could be pastoral counseling, there could be therapeutic counseling, and there could be a medical reason for some of this. Your thyroid's not working, you have diabetes, you have trauma, the unrelenting trauma that says that you have to pay attention to me now because it's time to heal it. And our soul wants us to heal. So if you do have these things that are coming up and we begin to work on it, our soul is, that higher self is behind us 100%, 150%, 200%. to help us understand our own selves and to heal and to move forward, to grow and learn from it. Our soul isn't against us. Our soul isn't waiting for us to reach a certain pinnacle and we're there. Our soul is there. We're walking the path. We're walking the talk, because what we take with us to the other side is that path, is that learning, is that truth, is that talking. Nowadays we live in a really amazing time where we can, there are so many modalities around us that we can access, we can use. We have talk therapy. Never before have people talked so clearly and people have understood each other and how the mental, psychological work, and they can help you. And there's techniques called EMDR, eye movement, and then there's EFT, emotionally tapping, emotion freedom technique, and where you can tap, and that's an energetic modality that if you really find somebody who knows how to do it well, and you can make a tremendous amount of progress with that. But it's also coupled with talking therapy or actual traditional therapy, which isn't bad. It's a clinical modality that is really helpful a lot of times as a reader. If I see somebody regularly and they're struggling, I work in tandem with the therapist. I'll say, I'll work with you as long as you see a therapist. Because a therapist has a tool bag that's very different than my tool bag. And I have been told that people working with a therapist, where I'll work with soul work, that I've gotten them to a place that they've been trying to get to for years. And now they're here because of the soul work that they did, but they still have to go back to the therapist and do the work. It's not, oh, look, we found this and now we don't have to deal with it. No, we found this and now we're going to, wow, look, it's there. Now we're going to work it. Now we're going to see what's underneath that rock. So we have different practices called somatic presence practices, where we're listening to our body. Our body's telling us where it hurts, and our body can tell us where the source of that pain is. And somatic practices, look that up or study that, are fantastic. The body knows, and the body can know the truth of ourselves. And as we have that spiritual strength, that's higher power strength, we can have the courage to kind of go into the body and find out what's there and bring it into balance, bring it into peace, bring it into help. So it's a powerful new practice. And then support groups, bringing your team around you, bringing your peeps around you that get what you're going through, or that are right there with you. I love that AA has this talking support, and then you have a sponsor who will walk you through, and your sponsor will have a sponsor so it's a community based on experience. And it's very important to have that basic foundation and then add the spiritual tools to it, the meditation. You're not meditating to get yourself out of a situation. You're not meditating yourself away from something so you don't have to deal with it. You're meditating to build that power, that alignment with your soul, that alignment with divine unconditional love that will help you balance what you've got going on inside you, will help you face it, will help you shift it. Prayer is amazing. We've all had experiences, we all know about prayers where we see somebody is just in dire straits, and a group of people pray and that person heals or comes back to life. And journaling is it's a spiritual tool and a mental tool to get your thoughts down. But it also, when we do automatic writing, when we get our thoughts down and we ask our higher power, we ask spirit, so can you give me some feedback on this, or you can tell me some more about this thing that I'm struggling with. Wow, all this amazing, if you're patient enough and do it often enough, some neat information, some very helpful, positive information can come forward. Ritual is another beautiful way of shifting the energy. It's all energy, it's all turtles all the way down. It's all energy. The mental struggle, the spiritual beauty, it's all energy that is shifting into different forms. So when you want to shift an energetic form of a mental illness or an illness or a bad thought, you use a ritual can help you do that, where it shifts the energy. If you're willing to embrace the energy, to shift it. If you're going to ignore the energy and go into ritual and pretend it's not there, it's not going to shift anything, right? So I want to take a little break and tell you this. I'm Nancy Smith. Again, it's Angelscapes podcast, and you can find me on angelscapes.net. And you can also find me on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, because this podcast will go on YouTube. It's going to do some changes up in the fall. In the fall, I'm going to start doing these podcasts at lunchtime instead of the evening. I find myself a little too tired in the evening, but also we're going to start looking at what else can I do with the podcast on YouTube? Maybe go to YouTube Live or something like that. So look for some of those changes. Now, if you're interested in some of the things that I'm talking about, what I do with this work, working with your soul and the Akashic Records, is I do my Akashic readings with people, my sessions with people, and my soul power mentorships with people, where we can take a look at where they are, what they're doing, what their soul wants them to know. And like Emoto changes the water, we work to change the water of your life so it can find a balance. So we work with the angels, we work with your inner team, your unconscious selves, we work with soul contract work and past life work, you name it. We work with it from the Akashic realm to find a different kind of balance in your life, find the resources, the tools that you could pull out, and try something on different or create something different in your life. Nobody's left behind. No part is left behind in the work that I do. We're all ascending up to that higher vibration into the Akashic realm, warts and all. And I love doing that work with people. So if you have any questions or you'd like to talk to me about it, I have a free discovery session, goes from 20 minutes to sometimes a half an hour, where I talk about what I do and how I help people and how I can help you and how that would fit into your life personally. So you can go on angelscapes.net and go to book a session and look for the discovery session and book it right there. And we'll have a conversation about some of these modalities that I work with that embrace all parts of yourself. And getting back to how I look at this is you are not failing, you are becoming. So as we look at our lives, I didn't do this and I haven't experienced that, and I'm not quite good at this and I'll never quite achieve that. We're looking at you unfolding. You're developing, and we're going to look at how you develop. And I also want you to look at how you are developing and what are you feeding yourself? How are you nurturing yourself? You're a garden. What are you putting into the garden so the plants can grow, so that you can grow and you can unfold? Your healing doesn't have a formula. It's not somebody else's formula. One size doesn't fit all. There's no specific thing that you can do to have a certain result, except for make the practice real. Where you feel it, you can relate to it. That's why I started the podcast saying, are you getting spiritual advice that just isn't working for you? Because maybe it's somebody else's spiritual path. Maybe it's somebody else's modality that they're working with that just doesn't resonate with you at this point, because there's something in there that's forgotten for you, or something else that needs to be developed or recognized in for you. If you're in a dark place right now, please, please, please know this isn't the end of your journey. This is the middle of your journey. This is the part where you invite your soul and your guides and your angels in to say, what's up, dudes? Give me a hand with this. There's a plan. It's not that everything that happens was meant to be. Sometimes things happen, well, I didn't mean that for that to happen. I'm surprised that happened, said everybody in the whole universe. But it happened. So now you have to deal with it. Now you have to move forward. You don't have to be stuck in this story. This is one of the chapters moving forward. Your soul really is interested in your higher power, and God is really interested in what you're going through and interested in helping you. Everyone's going to push. If you got a bald tire and you're stuck in the mud, it's going rah, rah, rah. The whole universe wants to push you out, first of all, because they want you to be happy and they want you to move forward, and you are an important part of the universe. You're an important part of humanity, and they want you to move on. And that stuck sound is making everyone crazy. And so it's in everyone's higher interest to get you unstuck. But if you choose to stay stuck, that's up to you. And the universe will honor that choice as well. There is no shame in needing help. There is no shame in questioning your path. And you say, how did I get here? And what is this? And who did this to me? There is no shame in being stuck. But if you choose to stay there and not ask for help, or not grow into an understanding of where you are and let's move on, then that's on you. Because there's many resources in this world right now that we live in than there ever was before. And you now know that you have a resource in your soul and your guides and your spirit helpers as well. Let this stuckness, let this struggle be a pause in your life and not a verdict, and not the end result. This is like, wait a minute, I have a soul contract right now, or I have a soul appointment right now that says I need to take a look at something. What am I meant to take a look at here? Well, maybe you're meant to take a look at the fact that you've been driving on bald tires and not doing self-care, and it's time for you to take some effort into better self-care for yourself, because not necessarily the car is not going to run, all these allegories of cars, but it's not going to run if you don't put gas in it, and it certainly is going to fail if you don't change the oil or put air in the tires or just fix it up, do maintenance. we need maintenance physically, mentally, and emotionally, and spiritually. I want to tell you a little bit, take a little bit of a turn here and talk about when somebody is in a spiritual modality, when they're a healer or a medium and they're doing a spiritual practice that's in service to other people. And I want to talk about how those modalities can be very hard on your body. They can be very hard on you physically and mentally, and you need to do extraordinary self-care when you are in service to anybody, whether it's a medical modality or delivering the mail, or if it's a spiritual. Now, if it's a spiritual modality and you're using energy as how you work, you need to be very aware of how it's impacting your body, how the energy that you're working with is impacting you physically and mentally as well. And back in the day with mediumship, when it was kind of new, I mean, mediumship's not new at all, but when spiritualism came on and all these mediums were hitting the stage and doing physical mediumship, and spirit would shadow them, and ectoplasm was being used to create the physical mediumship. Now, I'm not talking about people who are doing things dishonestly. I'm talking about the actual act of physical mediumship is physical cells coming from your body called ectoplasm to create this phenomena. Now, these mediums were doing a bang up, fantastic, wow job, but they were getting very sick and they were dying young because they were using up their body cells. They were using up their chi, their life force energy to create this phenomena. And I feel it's other people figured out how to do it fake it, so it wasn't real. And that's not what I'm talking about. I mean, shame on those guys. But the real deal people who were doing it were hurting themselves. And so there is some talk and some understanding from the spirit world as well as from the people world that how do we take care of ourselves? A lot of mediums over the years will struggle with sometimes with weight, sometimes with diabetes from endocrine problems, sometimes with alcoholism. And if they're not taking care of themselves, they do burn out pretty well. And I feel like sometimes healers they have certain healing practices. If they're not self-healing themselves, then they will burn out as well. And it's never a nice burnout. So please, every day, as a energy worker, you need to how many hours a day can I do this? How many days a week can I do this? When do I need to rest? You need to make a schedule. You need to check in with your body and your mind, and understand what it takes for you to do the work that you are being called to do, to work. And this may cause you to choose to have limits or cause you to be careful with your schedule. As a medium and as energy workers, oftentimes people come to us who are out of balance and the energy for them is chaotic, and we're bringing it into balance, and we're maybe calming the chaos down and impacting an alignment, using our energy for that chaotic person to heal, to get better. And sometimes they come and return to us, and sometimes they do magnificently. Our clients do magnificently, but sometimes they don't, and sometimes they will turn on us, or they will turn and use our energy or drain us, and in order to find some kind of well-being. And that's something to be very aware of in your practice. Are you replenishing yourself? Are your clients draining you? Which sometimes they do because they don't know any better. If you have a client that chooses to be continuously unhappy and stuck, or kind of comes back on you and attacks you, or decides to project their pain on you as if you should carry their pain, then we have to step back and we have to decide, is this an energetic thing? Is this a mental health thing? And we need to discern how am I helping this situation? Or maybe I'm not helping this situation, and maybe I'm being codependent in the situation. And as energy workers and healers and spiritual people, we don't always have the tools that a therapist would have, for instance, or a nurse would have. For instance, sometimes though nurses get burned out too, and all the people that work with other people get burned out, especially if they're working with difficult people. So this is important self-care, is about seeing what the situation is, doing good triage, and knowing what you're capable and what you're not capable of doing. And I'm saying that with all the love in my heart, because I have seen burnout that doesn't look so good, looks kind of ugly. So what I'm asking Spirit, what else did we want to present here? I'd like for you to, if you're listening to this and this is resonating with you, do some reflection and ask yourself gently, what part of me is asking to be heard right now that needs to be brought into balance, that needs to be attended to? Is it my body? Is it my mind? Is it my spirit? Is it my soul calling me, saying, hey, you, I noticed you skipped breakfast this morning, or something like that? And who's speaking to me and who needs my attention? And let that voice speak to you, and let that guide you for your next small step during the day. And journal about it, pay attention, mark it down in your, at least in your heart, to say, when I get like this, I need to take care of myself like this. So make a self-care. I would tell a client once, don't leave home until you've done a complete flight check. When airplanes are getting ready to take off, there's this huge list that they have to check before they can even turn the engine on. And once the engine on, there's another long list that they have to check. They literally have to check it off on either a clipboard or however they do it, because they're flying up in the sky and there's no ground underneath them, and they really want to know that that airplane is gonna lift off and it's gonna be able to land. And the same with all of you. What's your checklist? Are you running out of the house in the morning without checking your checklist, without hydrating, without setting your intention, without aligning yourself with your chi or your higher power? So get your flight checklist developed in your journal or something, and get a habit, a habit that embraces spirit, physical, mental, and emotional, so that you are at your best. You never know what's going to be around the corner. You never know what the day's going to be, unless you sit with spirit and say, what's my day going to be like? And use your intuition to flow through the day and see what you really need. Maybe you did need that umbrella after all, kind of thing. So as we do these check-ins, as you do your flight check plan, you'll have a better chance of arriving home safely, or getting through the day without having too many crashes. I'd like for you very much to consider self-care, and that a spiritual practice needs to include your mental well-being, your emotional, physical, and your spirit all together as one, because we're here to have an experience that we are going to take back to heaven, take back to that higher power. And as we step into our spirit selves, what we've cared for here matters, and it will go with us through eternity in a positive, loving way. If we ignore ourselves and don't take care of ourselves, I mean, nobody's perfect, it will matter too. So a spiritual practice has to embrace and acknowledge and accept that we are in a human form and that we have frailties. Not that these frailties are leading us, but we are respecting ourselves, and we are working with ourselves to move forward, to heal as a whole unit. And that's pretty much all I have to say for this. I could go on. I have 1,000 other ideas that I want to cover, but I think I want to stop with this concept for you to consider when you embark on your spiritual path, so you're honoring yourself. And for now, go out and have a wonderful time with your life. Jump into your soul, jump into your spiritual practice. Stay safe, stay compassionate towards yourself and others, and have a great time. Find your joy and live, in spirit, knowing that you're not alone.
Thank you for joining the Angelscapes podcast. We hope you've gained new insights and inspiration for your journey to uncover and access your soul's power. For more information and a deeper dive into finding clarity in your life, go to angelscapes.com. Remember to subscribe so you can be part of the discussion. It may just change your life. See you next time.